So I want to talk to you a little bit today about what artists do and why, and then more specifically what canvases do and perhaps why. I think I'll tell you something we've discovered in my lab. I'm a professor in the psychology department at St. George, University of Toronto, because it's culturally relevant. You know, there's a real tension in our culture between, say, the capitalist forces, so to speak, and people who are critics of capitalism. And most of the supporters of capitalism are sort of on the right-wing end of things. And there are complicated reasons for that. A lot of them are personality-based. But capitalism depends on entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are not like managers and administrators. And so managers and administrators, of course, are necessary to keep the entire capitalist edifice going, the whole social edifice going. But entrepreneurs are necessary to continually generate the new ideas that allow us to keep pace with the changing environment, with culture itself. And entrepreneurs are like artists. They have exactly the same personality structure. So the entrepreneurs are with the artists. And that's a real problem in some ways for our political culture, because the right wing, of course, promotes capitalistic social structures, but is not temperamentally inclined to appreciate art. And that means they're not temperamentally inclined to set things up to foster entrepreneurial activity, and that's really not a good thing. It also means that the people on the more conservative end of the political spectrum radically underestimate the utility of artistic endeavor, both practically and culturally, because artistic endeavor, in some sense, is at the base of everything people do. So, having said that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you've all seen artists do in cities. So, when a city is decaying in various places, usually it has to be decaying in a somewhat interesting way. The artists are the first people to pick up on the possibilities that decayed landscape now presents. And the possibilities are usually twofold. One is, well, it's cheap. And that's good for artists because, of course, they never have the money. But the other is that there's a place that could be beautiful again if someone just paid enough attention to it. And the artists are very good at picking out places that are cool, but a little on the unsafe side, let's say, or maybe, well, that's a good enough explanation. And that's sort of where artists live, because they have a niche, they have a biological niche, and their biological niche is interesting and unsafe. And then the artists go in there and they civilize it, and then other people can move in. And that's what artists do, and they do that conceptually too. So here's a way of thinking about that, is that we occupy a conceptual space, and it's virtually indistinguishable from the physical landscape, because when you see the physical landscape, you interpret it through your conceptual structures. So the two are very difficult to separate. The part of the world of experience that you inhabit and that you understand, that's sort of an orderly part. And an orderly part is the part where if you do something and you want something to happen as a consequence, it happens. And so that's the domain where you're competent and your skills produce the intended results. And you can be calm and secure and productive there. But there's a much larger domain that's around that, and that's the domain of things you know nothing about. And that's true everywhere. Like when you come into a situation like this, it's interesting, but it's also somewhat intimidating, especially if you're not all that extroverted, because there's all these people around and you don't know what they're thinking and you don't know what they're doing and you have to interact with them. And that's all unknown territory. And so wherever you go, there's known territory and unknown territory. Those are sort of like the fundamental building blocks of reality. They're chaos and order. And those are the fundamental building blocks of reality. And some people like order. And some people like chaos. And if you like order too much, you're really in trouble, and so is everyone else. And if you like chaos too much, then you're really in trouble, and so is everyone else. They have to be balanced properly, and order has to expand. And artists live on the border between order and chaos. That's their niche. And that's an exciting place to be, because that's where information flow is maximized, because they have one foot in what they expect and what they've mastered. That would be their skill. And Thaddeus is a skilled artist. And I think you can't be an artist without being skilled, although lots of people think that's not true. Those are mostly wannabe artists that think that. And then you have one foot in chaos. And as an artist, you exist there, but as people experience art through you, and also as a consequence of your artistic productions, you also put them there. And people like to be there because that's where all the dynamism is. It's exciting there, although it's also frightening. It's frightening because you don't exactly know what to expect there, and there might be strange demands put on you. So what artists do is expand the domain of order into the domain of chaos. And they do that for everyone. And they don't necessarily reap the rewards for that. When artists go into a neighborhood and revitalize it and turn it into valuable property once again, by the time the value is extracted, the artist will be chased away. So what they produce in terms of economic utility is garnered by other people. But what they do is incredibly important. They civilize us and they teach us how to see. And what Tad is doing with his paintings is, well, one thing he's doing is forcing you to see. Because he doesn't do, he's done the work to make something, but then he takes away everything that makes it easy to see. And that means you can't come in here and be perceptually lazy. You have to pay attention. And good art should make you pay attention. And good art will make you see things in a new way. And I mean that literally. I don't mean that metaphorically. Because artists are geniuses at perception. They teach you how to be smarter at seeing things. And seeing things is by no means just looking at what's there and noticing. It's like, what's there? That's a complicated problem. And there's lots of ways to see what's there. When you look at a painting, when I came in here today, the first thing I thought was, this looks like the right setting for Tad's paintings, because they've got a roughness, and so this sort of industrial setting works. The second thing I thought was, I'm not sure the paintings are working here, because they kind of just looks like blurs. And then I walked in and I started looking, and then all of a sudden the paintings started to build themselves, you know. And that's because Tad gives you enough information so that your brain can draw on your memory to build the things he's representing. And so he's forcing you to participate in the creative process along with him. And that's a gift, because creativity, people like to think that everyone's creative, and that's actually rubbish. Most people are not creative at all. And I can tell you how we know that. We've given thousands of people tests of creative achievement. And that might be as simple as taking a music lesson, which would be sort of step number one. And the median score on our questionnaires is 0. It's 13 dimensions of creativity. So creativity is very rare, and extreme creativity is extremely rare, although often mimicked. And if you're participating in the construction of an image with Tad, you get to stand in an artist's footprint, at least for the time that you're doing that. And that's a gift. And I'll close that by noting that even people who are very conservative by temperament and have benefited because of that, know at some level that it's a gift, because the most expensive artifacts in our society are artistic productions. How in the world do you account for that? Well, art stands at the bottom of everything. And it's the process that's helped people transform themselves into the relatively civilized and intelligent beings that they are today. And our species as a whole has been smart enough to appreciate that and to move forward with it. And it's interesting to see what Tad's done with these paintings. And it's a privilege, I think, to see them, because you get a chance to play your role in that process and to benefit from it. So, thank you very much.
Beautiful.